Hello.
Was
Happy
it
Easter.
Jesus' birthday? Is that what Easter is? Oh, that's Christmas, right?
Jesus' birthday. That was Christmas. Christmas, I think, is Jesus' birthday. It is. Today is the resurrection day.
Oh, when the carpenter came to life.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So yes, I don't necessarily know a lot about Easter. I am told though that yes, that is the resurrection of Jesus, which apparently does not make him a zombie. It is an act of spirit and such. So, for all of those who are celebrating Easter this weekend, it is I think it is a time, right, of connection and renewal and getting ready for the new year. And similar to, I think, when you think about the solstice changes, right, the season changes and lots of things and faiths all intertwined. So, I don't know a lot about it. I know that chocolate bunnies, though, historically have nothing to do with Easter. But we just benefit from it now.
I always wondered where the bunny and Easter bunny came in and stuff.
Yes.
How long did it take for the capitalism to take over?
Well, and I did see the best. I don't share videos with folks normally because, I just don't. But I did see a funny one, and I may have sent it to you. It was a podcast with Jesus and the Easter Bunny. And so if you Google it, you might find it. And it was, I thought it was very, very clever and very, very good. But yeah, it is Easter weekend. Are you off tomorrow?
Yeah. Tomorrow's a holiday, so we're off.
Me too.
Friday off and Easter Monday off.
So I'm having caffeine today.
Oh, deadly! Look at you treating yourself.
Because the biggest change from moving from Saturdays to Sundays is I have to get up on Mondays. But the other change is that on Sundays, we sometimes get a secret visitor. So hold on a sec. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to just shut my camera off for 1 sec. So just give me you.
Sweet. I wonder who the secret visitor is. Good evening, Corey Moore. Good evening, Lana and Linda. Hello, guys. Lana says, hello, my two very handsome friends. Happy Easter. Corey Moore, good evening, guys. Linda Morris, hello. Hey, fellas, getting ready for politics. Yeah, so we got Wyatt coming on tonight. I mean, if you guys have seen the show before, we've had Wyatt on before. He's young, trying to think of the word, up and coming. I guess the up and coming politician of Canada. I would say he's to me he's the man. You know, when you look at politics and news and stuff, and we've been following his journey since he was a young. I mean, he's still a young kid, but he's growing up a lot now, and I'm excited to hear from him tonight. See how he's doing on everything. He's been killing it, going all over. How old is he now? Oh man, I can't remember. We'll have to ask him tonight. But he was young when he joined us last time. Wasn't he like 12, 13 or something? 14? That was like a couple years ago. Grandmother Kate, hello. Happy Easter.
There we go.
You.
A surprise guest.
So good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been since Ottawa.
I know, eh?
Jeez, that's awesome.
So someone came over for the scraps of my leftovers from my lunch. So I said, would you like to give Brennan a wonderful surprise and all of our friends at home?
That's the best.
And so just to answer, I believe he's 16 now. I think he's 16. He was 12 when he first came on the show.
Right.
And so I think he's 16. So we're so excited to have Grandma Kate here with us today. It is absolutely fantastic. And Grandma Kate and I got to have a lovely adventure this week. And let me just, why don't you tell them where what we did this week?
What do we do? We went to Toronto. We adventured to Toronto with me driving every inch of the way.
Not every inch of the way.
There,
yes.
And to witness Zoe defend her PhD.
Oh, that's sick. How was that?
Yes. Oh my God, it was beautiful. They didn't even want a revision. They loved it so much.
That's sick.
No revisions whatsoever.
It was absolutely fantastic, without a doubt. It was a moment to remember. So Zoe, who's one of our great pals and I've known for many, many years, is in the education program and at York. She started in 2019, and the reality, and you got to keep in mind, before this PhD, there were lots of achievements she had. Right, she's an Inspire Award recipient. She's a laureate there. She's done amazing work in the field of arts and certainly youth engagement. She's been on our team numerous times over the years. I've watched as she has been the warrior woman that she's always been, but in this new space and place. And there she is in the moment where they said, "Meet Dr.
awesome.
Zoe Roy."
That's so cool.
So we're very, very excited to be there that day. It's absolute brilliance. It's Indigenous brilliance at its finest. It was a beautiful day too. It was a wonderful process for her to defend her PhD, and in a really sacred way, in a good way, anchored in sort of traditional approaches, and it was absolutely delightful. It was a highlight of my year so far, that's for sure. Like, to be able to see her get to that stage in space and place. So yes, it is great to see everyone tonight as well. And we do have, like Brendan said, and such a great, this is the thing. I love the fact that we just shut the camera off and Brendan just went on and did his thing. And he's, you're just so natural at it, by the way. Like,
I just get real nervous and then start yapping.
Yeah, no, it was excellent. So we got to see Zoe become Dr. Zoe Roy, Dr. MC Roy, MC Roy. And the exciting thing is that it's just this intergenerational joy, right? An intergenerational healing. We talk lots about the harms that our families and communities have experienced generation to generation, but it is so critical that we recognize the joys and the riches and the successes. We were in the room with two Indigenous folks, professors themselves, and you just think of all the times that people have done this, right, who have made these achievements, and whether it's a PhD or a master's, an undergrad, a high school diploma, it is I am very intrigued by this. Brendan, I absolutely loved your video at the election. I am do you know
I have to apologize, I'm not sure what she's referring to.
Yeah, I don't either, but now I really want to know.
Man, now I want to see.
So quickly there, we're going to say, Lana, it's nice to see you. Yes, Lana, I got a special surprise here. Yeah, Grandma Kate. Corey, hello again. I saw Corey for lunch. And Tracy said hello there. We are super excited tonight because we do have our pal Wyatt. He's going to join us shortly here in a second. And we first met Wyatt. I think I must have seen him somewhere, right? Like, I don't know. I don't even remember Brendan.
I think you saw him on TikTok.
Maybe a TikTok.
Because there was a phase there near the end of the Panny D there where we were kind of inviting people from TikTok. I think that's how we met him.
Well, why don't we bring him to the studio and then we'll confirm where and when we met him. But I've decided tonight there's going to be no trivia. I think I have a brand new way of competing between Wyatt and Brennan. I've got it now.
No more trivia.
No trivia.
No more trivia. That makes me a little bit sad. I'm not going to lie.
Well, no, you're going to like the new one even better.
Oh, no.
Nice to see you guys.
Well,
hey, good to see you, man. You're good.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Wyatt Sharpe, I've got to ask you. So first question, are you 16?
I am, yeah.
I
just got my G1 recently. I just got my G1, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so before we go any further, instead of trivia, here's my question for you.
Okay.
Gentlemen, and we'll start with Brennan. Brennan, who's yawning? I'm gonna put some Splenda in my teeth. So Brennan Gugu,
Sorry, I got a bit of a cold.
No
I was
worries.
trying to mute there, and I was trying not to cough.
Okay, Brennan, how tall are you, Brennan?
Like 5'10".
Okay, Wyatt Sharpe. This is the alternative to
Wyatt, you look tall in those pics, man.
how tall are you, Wyatt?
You know, I don't mean to one up you, but I believe when I
Oh.
did my my driving test and they measured how tall I was, it was either 5'10" or 5'11". I believe.
5'11". There you go.
Damn.
Wyatt remains the victor year after year. It's hard.
Easy,
I'll say
already
five.
younger
I'll
than
say
you.
5'10". We can be even. We can be even. It's okay.
You can still, you're still growing. So I'm screwed. I just got to take the L there.
For those of you who haven't seen the previous year's Wyatt's visits here, we attempted to do political trivia, and that ended very badly for Brennan. And then I think
It was fun to see.
It was
though, like
so
how
we did the political trivia from I think the Globe and Mail or CTV, like their annual survey of the year before, and Wyatt got every single answer but one correct. He did get the one he missed. He got it on his second guess. And then we also
then the next year you had to screw me and add in the Star Wars trivia, which made me lose.
Still win.
You did still win the Star Wars trivia, which was an embarrassment to Brennan, whose house is filled with Star Wars paraphernalia.
Yeah.
The Force was not with him that night. So you might not know Wyatt, but we haven't. We had taken a little hiatus. Last summer, I had some health issues, and so we sort of slowed down. And to the point, by slowing down, it took us a while to come back. And so you're our first guest of 2025, which makes sense because you've been joining us sort of in January since you were 12.
I know. I actually thought I was in January. I was like, I wonder if they're going to reach out. And then I was like, I'm sure they have good reason for not to. And then, here we are. So, but thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, and it just makes sense that, and in fact, last week's show, when we came back last week, it was just Brennan and I catching up, and people responded very, very loudly to you coming to you being the first guest. So I'm very glad you could join us.
Thank you. I'm glad to. I hope you guys had a good long weekend. Lots of, I feel like the news and everything has been moving very quickly. So it's nice, I'm sure, to have a long weekend to kind of recalibrate a little bit.
It has been moving fast. There's no doubt about that. It's a new world, isn't it, right now?
It is, yes.
And we're thrilled to have you here to be able to offer sort of a different take, because Brennan is not a ton older than you, but I certainly am, and Kate really is. So I don't think you've ever met Grandma Kate, Wyatt. This is Grandma
I have
Kate.
not. No, I heard a bit of the introduction, but very nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too, Wyatt.
And Grandma Kate and I watched the video of the summit together a little bit earlier. And
okay.
And it was really exciting to see that, and we'll chat more about that because I see there's another summit happening this fall, right? This November.
There is, yes. Yep.
And but before we go there, okay, so quick checkup. So you've got your G1, very exciting. And have you been able to drive a lot?
I mean, I just got it a few weeks ago. With the election, it's made it a little bit busy, so I haven't had a lot of time to do that type of stuff. But hopefully soon, yes. But a little bit.
And are your folks feeling trustworthy with you in their vehicles?
My dad drives a very large pickup truck, so I don't even know if I'm feeling trustworthy of myself in that one. And then my mom, I think so. Yeah, I've been that's the one I've been practicing in, so hopefully that's going to go over well. But yeah, our house is kind of good for it. We got we live around a bunch of apple orchards, very rural, so it's very, very kind of foolproof, if you will.
There you go. You just ruined it for yourself, just for the record. That's just to be clear.
Tell your dad.
What grade are you in this? What grade are you in this year?
Before you.
What's that? Sorry.
What
grade 10?
Grade 10. There you go. And you have your show on the. Hey, Shannon Monk is in the house. Hello, Shannon. So you've got your. You still have your YouTube channel, right?
I do, yeah.
And is that show, the Wyatt Sharpe Show, still active?
Yeah, like what I've kind of been doing is, I mean, you started to mention it, but doing like a full like cable show is also a lot. So I've been like, what most of the time is taking like clips from the cable show, posting it on YouTube, or like, little kind of shorter style interviews. Or if I just, have an interview that I end up getting that doesn't make it to cable, then I'll put it on YouTube. But yeah, for sure.
Because you now have your own cable show on the news forum. Is that correct?
It is, yeah, as of January.
And how are you feeling about that? That's a big deal.
Crazy.
Thank you. It's definitely, I mean, it's cool to be able to kind of, it's nicer too for people. I mean, my grandparents are an example who don't really know how to navigate YouTube. And so I can just tell them, turn on the, satellite TV box and go to whatever channel it is for them. So that's helpful for sure. But I'm also cautious, like, it's great to have it, but with the way in which media is going, like, that's why I am still trying to kind of keep up the online and digital side of things. Just because I'm like, I feel like more people still actually see me online than the amount of people who will, see me on cable, or people who see me on cable, like maybe it's just they saw it on, say on like, maybe they were in like a restaurant, for example, they walk in, they see it on TV, but they don't really clue in. Whereas I think digital can be more targeted sometimes. But with the election, it's cool too, because like it gives me a platform to interview elected officials. And a lot of times, in an election, it's all about name recognition. And so they're looking for a platform. And so once they see that there's, a TV side to it there, in some cases, a little bit more responding.
And are you finding, because I was trying to figure out a little bit more about the news forum, because I wasn't familiar with it necessarily, right? So
yeah.
I wasn't familiar with it, and I was, and I'm going to be very honest with you. You're 16, I can be honest. So
You bet.
I was trying to figure out if it fit, where it fit in the media spectrum, because you've got mainstream media, right? Which is, and I think that word as a rule means old, right? So
yeah,
it's been around for a while, right? So,
yeah.
And in Canada, that would be Global, CTV, CBC. And then you've got like the cable-based programs, so Rogers, Cogeco, like that have their sort of kind of news shows that are local-based, right? Which may still not be mainstream, but a little more mainstream because they're attached to those big providers, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the print, so you've got the Globe, the Post, the Sun, the Citizen, like those sort of collections, right? And then there's a whole new form of media that is forming. And the question that I always have is, can it be media and journalism at the same time? And some of them, like, and we saw at the debate this week, if anyone's watched the debates.
Which I was there for. I don't know if I told you that or not. But
oh, you were in Montreal.
Yeah, I was.
And did you ask any questions?
Well, so I was there for the my thought process was like I was doing a Chamber of Commerce event on the night of the French debate. And so I was like, going for one night will be enough. I'll still be able to ask some questions. So I just went for the English debate, which, as I'm sure you saw in the media, all of the scrums got canceled for the English debate because of what took place at the French debate. But it was a very interesting atmosphere because when you got there, you could tell kind of the tensions. And for people watching who aren't familiar with what happened, Rebel Media, which is in essence an organization of political right-wing activists disguised as journalists, they had been denied accreditation in 2019 and 2021 by the Debates Commission. And then they ended up suing, and the Debates Commission had to give them accreditation. And so this time, the commission's kind of reasoning was they had said, we're just going to give them accreditation from the jump so we don't have to go through and spend all this money in, court amongst some of these battles. And so Rebel News was there, but organizations like, for example, the News Forum, CBC, CTV, all of the cable channels, and any other outlet that was there was told you can only accredit one reporter to be part of the media scrum. Well, Rebel News then basically told the commission, if you don't allow us to bring in 5 reporters to ask questions, we're going to sue you again, which is kind of what their model is. Like if they don't get their way, they sue people. And so from there, it was like the night one of the debate, while all of the other reporters were like filing, working, they had all these desks set up because that's the idea. Like if you're a journalist at the debate, it's because you're covering the debate and you are going to be writing a report or a TV story or whatever. Whereas Rebel News, because they're not actual journalists, they're just there, they're just happy to be there. They rushed up to the microphones before all of the other actual reporters could. And because it was kind of a first come, first serve thing, all of them got to ask their questions first. And because there was only 10 minutes for each leader, there was no time left for the actual journalists. And just the kind of demeanor and the disrespect that they had toward each of the leaders on the first night. And then in addition to that, they started like getting into full blown arguments. I was sitting next to, in the filing center on night 2, Stu Benson from the Hill Times. And as I was sitting there, like one of Rebel's so-called reporters came up to him and like was whispering into his ear. Like it was just so childish, and like it almost made me think as if I didn't leave high school to go to the debate. And so it was just like all of those things combined led Michelle Cormier, the executive director of the Debates Commission, to come out and say, sorry, the scrums are canceled. So long story short, I did not get a question. So that was unfortunate. But then all of the leaders went to do their separate media scrums afterwards, and they left. So that was kind of, disappointing because I couldn't get one to each leader. I had to choose like which one do I want a question to. So I went to Jagmeet Singh's because his was like a 4-minute walk and the other ones were like 15, 20-minute drives. So I needed to get there quickly. But yeah.
Well, first of all, the fact that you were there is absolutely fantastic. Like, I'm so glad you were there. Your description of Rebel Media eases the concern I had going into this because I wasn't sure because I wasn't familiar with the news forum per se, right? And where they landed in that realm of media versus journalism, right? Mm-hmm. Media is and I think that's where we're getting lost in this world. Media isn't news. Media is media.
Well, and the thing I would say too about the news forum is they certainly have like a reputation of like distinguishing the two. And so while they do have kind of a commentary punditry side of things, they also have their news team. And on their punditry side, like they're very open about it. Like former politicians have shows on the network, for example. Yeah. And it started out being kind of more conservative voices, and that was the idea. But once the network got like new ownership and stuff, they kind of changed it to be more of like an overall kind of overarching news channel. Some of the like online reports about what the news forum is has not been fully updated to reflect that, but they have liberals on the network as well. They have someone named Anthony Fuhr, who's like a pretty well-known liberal commentator. And then, yeah, like the news side, which is what I'm a part of as well. And so, I mean, it's a nice opportunity for me, just like I said, to kind of get my voice out there in more of a kind of official capacity.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I'm glad you found a home there. And it's because your voice, and you've got a colleague, right? And I imagine a friend who also has a show. Another younger fella. He's not as young as you are, right? He's a little older, I think.
Yeah, he's 20. So
very old then, yes. So,
very old, yeah.
I do remember when 20-year-olds were old. So now in that space, and I'm really glad you clarified too for that, because it is because I think one of the realities is that when journalism mixes with media so heavily, where the clicks are what matters, because the clicks are where money comes from, then the difficulty is how do citizens who aren't savvy, right? You just described, I just got to be honest, and again, you already know that I think highly of you, but your description of what played out in Montreal there at the debate, not only was it informative, it was clear, it was concise, it was like, and that is what's quite often missing in media spaces versus journalism spaces. And when we first met you when you were 12, we were really clear that you were a journalist. You weren't like a young person. You weren't a child doing this, but you were doing journalism at 12. And you can see that in your way that you just described that, just so you know, like that is, it is very impressive. The risk is always around, I think, and I don't know, I'd love to get your take on it, when that journalism gets sucked into being media, right? And I see it and it's not just the sort of like the Rebel, which is just a gross, and I would agree, like, not journalism in any way, and a profiteering group of pirates who, and
Well,
that,
and I would just say quickly too on that point. It's like it was speculated, like obviously they're doing this because they want to fundraise off it, they want to make money off of it with respect to Rebel News. But like it became kind of official at the debate when CBC and again Stu Benson from the Hill Times, Justin Ling, like really good kind of investigative journalists, uncovered that Rebel News is actually registered as a third-party advertiser with Elections Canada, in essence, so that they can run advertisements to sway the election towards the Conservative Party, or assuming the Conservatives, whoever their preferred kind of candidate is, so that they could run anti-liberal ads over the course of the election. So that kind of solidified the fact, like they're not in any way a news organization. They are, in fact, a political advocacy organization and they just have so many kind of workarounds too. Like, for example, I was telling you that they went so that they could have 5 reporters at the debate. And their argument for that was like, oh, well, we have a bunch of different divisions as a part of our news organization. And like the response to that would be, well, so does CBC. They have an outlet in literally every single town and city across the country. And yet they still respected the 1 reporter per rule that was outlined. They were the ones who outlined the rule, in fact.
yeah, it's a troubling time when you, like, the other one is True North. Like, I'm not, like,
Yes.
And again, there is a hatefulness, right? There was this smug hatefulness that just poured out of them.
And I would say too, with respect to True North, or Juno News, I think is like a subsidiary or something of True North now. But like they get up to the microphone and there's so many important issues that are actually impacting Canadians right now. And I mean, listen, I get people are tired about hearing about tariffs and about the cost of living and whatever, but those are the things that if you go and talk to the average person, who I imagine, True North, as you said, their profits are driven based off of clicks. So in many cases, they probably are not the ones who are fitting into this middle or lower class of people who are having to actually work for a living right now. But like they get up to the microphone and they ask Mark Carney, how many genders are there? Mark Carney doesn't give them which first of all is a ridiculous question, but then Mark Carney doesn't give them the type of answer that they're looking for. He gives them a factual answer saying in terms of sex, yes, there are 2 genders. And so as a result, you don't see True North and Rebel News posting these clips all over the place because it won't get them clicks when he answers in a respectful, normal way. And just like, I don't know if you saw the clip, but the True North journalist who goes up to the microphone and who asks the question starts out by, if you didn't like my friend's question, you sure as hell aren't going to like my question. Like, you're talking to the prime minister of the country. Like, at the least you could do is maybe show some respect, not just for him, but like it's embarrassing when you get a question to the prime minister and that is how you want to express yourself. Like, not, good afternoon, prime minister, good evening, thank you for taking my question, which I always myself, like if I get a question to someone, generally speaking, try to make a point of like, yes, thank you for taking my question and just acknowledging them for doing it. Because like, this is Canada, and we kind of take for granted the fact that politicians will come out and will take questions and will answer to the public and will participate in the democratic process. But in many other countries, not even wouldn't there be, media scrums, a lot of countries there wouldn't even be these types of debates. And I think people, like True North and Rebel News, they often forget that, and they just take for granted the fact that they're able to post all these clips online. They're able to fundraise off of every single thing that comes by their desk. And so it's unfortunate, but again, I guess that's just kind of the reality.
Well, just know that if any of them have words with you about your sharing your opinion on them, I will have your back.
They already have. Don't worry. They already have. They did at the debate, and they have before as well. So I'm not new to them, but.
My goodness. We got a question here from Linda. I want to share this with you here. How do you feel about Midas Touch or Adam Mockler? I don't know who Adam Mockler is. I know who Midas Touch is, but not to put you on the spot.
Adam Mockler is like the main guy behind Midas Touch.
Oh, of Midas Touch. The oldest brother? I
think so. Actually, I might be wrong on that. I know the guy's Adam who runs it, but yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. So do you feel like you can answer that question?
Yeah. I mean, I think like certainly they're an example of like more of the commentary side. I do think they have a nice kind of investigative side with respect to what they do. But at the same time, like I think what they're doing is fundamentally different than like what Rebel News or True North in Canada would be doing, because they're taking things that are already publicly available and they might be editorializing it to some degree, but they're not totally like doing a 180 with respect to what's being said. Rebel News in some case, like they'll take something that is said and they'll just totally change what is said, and they'll just like make it completely and factually incorrect. Whereas like Midas Touch, they might take something that looks really bad for the other side, but like they're doing it in a way with like, yeah, if the person said something that seems foolish, all we're doing is kind of further providing a platform for that clip to make them look more foolish. So I mean, like I said, I don't think there's any kind of comparison between the two.
Yeah, it's interesting because I like the Midas Touch. I find I'm a centrist. Like I've always been sort of a centrist, like a centrist that leans really heavily left, but really a centrist at heart. Like I understand and appreciate that the world looks different for different folks, and I don't have to agree with folks. I don't even the hateful folks. I don't have to agree with them. And we live in a space and a place where, as long as that hatefulness doesn't become hate focused towards someone else, an individual, or people's, whatever it might be, if you're not causing harm, if you're sharing your opinion, all the power to you. That said, and so that right-leaning stuff always I find concerning because it does feel very hate-filled. It is, I think it ignites a lot in other people. And what's interesting is when I listen to Midas Touch, like their podcasts, and I'll share two things that I sort of annoy me about it. They're so good at this, and I wish we could be good. I wish we could take this podcast and clip it down into these 15-minute bits and release like 8 podcasts a day, which is what they do. So it's hard to say.
I mean, they also have a staff of like 100 and something people.
Exactly. Right? So the struggle I have though with them is that it is, and it's not like I don't dislike them. It's just I find it is loud, right? They're loud. They are quick fire. They are repeat. You can hear the same message about 8 times in a podcast, and I feel like it's the same experience as if I'm with folks who are maybe more right of center. It's a very similar approach, right? Repeat, a similar message in a short period of time. And I get worried when I see that in any space. Does that seem familiar to you? Either not necessarily with them, but in general, when you're looking at media in the world?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the problems you've underscored with Midas Touch kind of underscores like more of a general problem that can be seen across media and commentary, like we've been talking about more broadly speaking, in just saying a lot of people right now will take social media and they'll push their message, which is obviously their right to do, but it can become kind of dangerous to some degree too. And I'm going to kind of, lay now on the misinformation aspect when people start to take these clips that are being circulated and totally like misinterpret them. And another example of this is like when I was at the debate, my grandpa was like scrolling on Facebook and was seeing all these rumors about security concerns at the debate and everything. I was in the debate itself. Nothing was happening beyond Rebel News causing disruptions. And like, then, they're messaging, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? I saw this on Facebook. I saw that on Facebook. And it's just like that kind of can speak to, and I'm not saying Midas Touch does that by any means, but it's just like, it does kind of, again, underscore the problem with just allowing anybody to post whatever they want on social media. Or I guess more so, that's kind of obviously just the free speech side of things, but the fact that the algorithms will then pick up whatever is said and will amplify that in, oftentimes more than it would the factual reporting. And so an example of that might be like, again, and I hate to keep saying their name because it's just giving them more publicity, but like if you take a Rebel News clip, for example, 9 times out of 10, that's going to get more likes or more views or whatever on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is than say, Mercedes Stevenson or Vashi Capellos posting a factual interview online. And, why that is, I think it's just because our society has kind of, again, laid into just wanting to hear more of whatever their ears want to hear, basically, and just whatever kind of their leanings are. And how we fix that is for someone much smarter than me to answer.
I think Brennan's got a question, looks like.
No, thank you. That's awesome. I kind of want to stray off the Rebel News topic. We've been following you for so long. Like, you've been doing so much. It's just like amazing stuff. And it's really cool to see you. Like, even like just the places you've been, the people you've been able to see and be around. Like, what is the in the past like 2 years, past year, what is probably like to you the coolest thing that you got to do personally that maybe you didn't, maybe it was all over your media, maybe it wasn't. Yeah, I want to hear about like how you been doing.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like things that I could say for sure. I mean, like going to the inauguration and covering the inauguration was interesting just because it was such like a minute by minute experience, and it was like it started out by just going and by kind of experiencing what was happening and getting there. I went there on the Friday, the inauguration was on the Monday, and like upon getting there, I saw, you know, all of the news stories that were being published and everything, and there was a lot being said about like you know, what was going to happen with respect to the inauguration. It got moved indoors, and like there was just a bunch of these crazy things that were being posted online. And so I'm like, okay, what's happening? And then figuring it all out for myself. So that was an interesting experience. I got to do like an inauguration show from Washington in studio, which was really cool. And, you know, interviewing like everybody. I interviewed George Santos, for example, on that inauguration show, which I mean, that's another thing is like interviewing people like him. I got a lot of pushback for doing that because people say, oh, you know, why would you interview him? You know, you're giving him a platform. That's kind of the new thing that's often said is like, you know, you're giving them a platform. And my kind of pushback on that is always like these types of people are going to have a platform anyway. So why not use my platform to push back and hold them accountable with respect to what they're saying, as opposed to just allowing them to go on and say whatever they want on their own channels. Again, that's part of kind of democracy and of our process. But then also, I mean, it was touched on earlier, but I got to host and organize a conference this year that we're doing again next year, dedicated towards like future voters and kind of the next generation of voters. And so that was really cool because it kind of really looked to cultivate kind of what I've done and what I've been able to do over the course of the past few years, and just try and educate other young people to do something similar. And so with respect to that, you know, it was like, I think 800 or so students came out between the 2 days of the conference. We had lots of interesting speakers, just again, really trying to encourage young people to think big about politics and to kind of reduce the apathy that we often see in politics. And so again, that was interesting. And then, yeah, lots of cool things. I mean, I did, this is not really political related, but I went to, I guess kind of it is, I went to Europe this year on a trip as well. And I did like a show from Europe and, you know, learning kind of the history of Canada's world wars and Indigenous history. And just like, so that was kind of an interesting personal experience too, just because, you know, oftentimes I think people, when they're talking in the media and when they're seeing and, you know, making all of these comments on everything, oftentimes, like, I think if these types of people could go and have the same experience I did in a place like Europe, like standing at Vimy Ridge, for example, like their opinion on kind of what they're saying might be a little bit different, just to really be there and kind of feel the weight of these situations.
That must have been wild just to like actually be there and feel that energy while participating in something like that. Like that's so cool, man. Yeah, like I'm super proud of you, man. That's
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was certainly, yeah, it was interesting, and it was even like being there with other young people as well. I mean, I did like when I was there, I like connected with people who were like elected officials and stuff from Europe, and so that was cool. But like I still like found the more rewarding experience again to just like be at Vimy Ridge, be at Dieppe, be at all of these different places, going to like all of the 5 beaches and stuff too. And again, just kind of seeing the impact that Canada had on the world, but obviously you know, oftentimes more so the impact the world had on Canada.
I'm glad. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's sick. I'm glad you're meeting a lot of people too. Like that, I found. I mean, like you see, me and Peter and Kate's relationship, and like these are people that I just met through like, you know, just working and doing extracurricular stuff, and like, and so like, yeah, that's just so important. The more people the more, you know, the bigger you build your community, like just the more it feeds you. Like yeah, I'm super happy.
Sure. Thank
we
you.
do have a question here from Linda. She says, how do you feel about Carney versus Trudeau? I'm more of a centralist too, and I'll be honest, I'm like, keep calm and Carney.
It's really interesting because like I think a lot of people Their policies are very much similar. So let's start out with that. And like what they want to do are very much similar. And so if you look at the conservatives like to point out things like the carbon tax or the capital gains increase or all of these different things that Trudeau kind of championed. Mark Carney getting rid of those types of policies was not that he disagreed with them necessarily. It was just that he saw the response that it was getting amongst the Canadian public. And so then he decided, okay, it's super divisive. And that's the word he uses, is that because it was a divisive policy, it's not that these policies weren't effective. It's just, again, he recognized that they weren't effective. And as a result, he got rid of it. Some people are saying that as a bad thing. I mean, to me, I would think for our leaders and stuff, you know, if they're just being naive to the point that they think all of their policies that are being enacted are a good thing, that's not a good thing at all. But again, with respect to like Trudeau and Carney as a person, Justin Trudeau was always very nice to me, like whenever I interviewed or talked with him. So I don't want to say anything bad about him, but like from a policy perspective, obviously there's policies that were starting to become very divisive amongst Canadians. And I think, you know, Carney coming in is not, again, that he's different on policy. It's just that he has a certain level of skill set that people in Canada right now, given the threat posed by Donald Trump and given the way the media has kind of framed it, feel as if Mark Carney would be the better candidate to deal with that. But like, to be totally honest, the difference between the two of them going, like I was at Mark Carney's, one of his press conferences just yesterday when he was unveiling his platform. And like, he has all of the same staffers as Justin Trudeau did. His rhetoric is very much the same. What he says is very much the same. Like if you listen to a Carney speech to a Trudeau speech, like you can tell they were written by very similar people, if not the same person. So again, I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but I just think there's certainly a lot of similarities. But again, they are their own person, so that comes with differences as well.
He was pretty articulate. I am not Trudeau. And
yeah,
I think he also said, and Pierre isn't Trudeau, and I'm not Trudeau.
Yeah.
And you are right, because one of the realities is that the party is still the party, right? At the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And people do have to he had to make decisions that would separate him from Trudeau, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think he is also, like, just from where I'm sitting and listening and watching, I'll be intrigued to see how he responds to the environmental components should he be elected, right? Because that is, I think, one of the greatest challenges in the conversations in this country, which is this balance between economy and everything that's needed to do that, to make it successful, and environment. And I don't think it has to be an either or. And I have enjoyed listening to Carney at the debates identify that you can have both. I don't know yet. I don't know, because I'm not a scientist or an economist, how you can successfully have two, but certainly there is a need. And so I'm a little bit wary, but not wary enough to vote for, like, to go to a rally with 8,000 people and who are like cheering about the end of diversity.
Well, when you go to these types of rallies, like they're not policy focused whatsoever, and like I've really tried to underscore for people the difference between like campaign press conferences and then campaign rallies. And the campaign press conferences are really aimed to kind of persuade people who are not voting for you to come over to your side, whereas the campaign rallies are more so to kind of make sure that your base stays enthused and is going to continue to support you. But yeah, I mean, I also think it's interesting, like, to kind of see, once we move past this idea of Donald Trump and tariffs, that's really when we'll start to see how Mark Carney is going to differentiate himself from Justin Trudeau, and whether or not we're going to go from like a 2011 Stephen Harper majority under the Conservatives to a super liberal majority afterwards. We could totally see something similar after this election, because right now everyone is focused on tariffs. And so Mark Carney is, presumably quite likely to win this election, whether it's a majority or minority We don't know at this point. Let's say it's a majority. And then 4 years from now, Mark Carney was not able to effectively differentiate himself from Trudeau. He wasn't able to do a lot of things very successfully. We're speaking pretty hypothetically right now, but then maybe that's when the Conservatives will go and will be able to be successful. And so I think that's why you're hearing a lot in Conservative circles right now too. Usually after the Conservative leader or any political leader loses an election, they don't really get to stay on. You're not really hearing the same type of rhetoric about Pierre Poilievre, because up until the Trump tariffs were in place, he was a pretty effective leader, especially with respect to his communication, not saying his policies or anything, but just obviously his communication was resonating. He was ahead in the polls by a lot. And so that is kind of getting me, at least in the circles that I've been talking to hear from people that like maybe Pierre Poilievre would get to stay on after this election, even if he loses to a Liberal majority, just because people in the party just love him and they just feel super kind of enthusiastic about him and about his, personality. And I think a lot of the things that people don't like about him, this is another thing, and I'll kind of rant a little bit more about kind of what I've been seeing on the campaign trail, is a lot of the things that people don't like about Pierre Poilievre are not coming from him, they're coming from the people around him. And so speaking from kind of a journalist perspective, when I go to like one of his press conferences or one of his rallies that I've covered over the course of the campaign, yesterday, for example, he was in, I think, Surrey, British Columbia, doing a press conference. And I was talking to some of the reporters. Glenn McGregor from City News was talking about this. And it's like when he is giving a press conference, usually how these types of things work is all the reporters get together and the campaign will say, okay, we have 20 minutes for questions, or maybe they'll say we have time for 4 questions. And then the reporters will figure out amongst themselves, okay, Susie wants to ask this, John wants to ask this. We're going to kind of work this out and it's going to be great. Whereas the Poilievre campaign basically handpicks the reporters themselves as to who they want to ask the questions. And so yesterday, the first question came from someone from a local outlet in BC called the New Westminster Times. And they were telling more of like a personal story, which albeit is meaningful, but just usually, again, from a reporter's perspective, that's not something you would do. And then she started bashing Mark Carney in the question. And so like, that's an example of like, maybe this would have been someone better to introduce Poilievre at the press conference rather than to pose as a reporter and ask a question. And then like they went to some Manitoba French radio outlet for a question. Then they went back to British Columbia and so out of all of the questions, there was one national reporter from like Czech, which was still like a British Columbia based outlet. And so, not to bash the importance of their questions by any means, but it's just like the reason that national reporters get questions at these types of things more so than local media is because these types of press conferences are not intended for local audiences. Like when Pierre Poilievre is in Surrey, BC, what he is saying is not exclusive to people in that community. They're for people across the country to hear and to see. And that message gets across because of the national media. And so it's important for national media to have questions because they need to clarify what he's saying. And even, the Liberal campaign does this, I would say, more effectively in some regards. They have like, even yesterday at the press conference I was at, there's literally a group chat between like the like press team for the Liberals and all of the reporters, they call it the delegation, who are covering the campaign. And the reason for that is because Mark Carney said something yesterday, a figure that was incorrect. And so then the press person can message and say, oh, just an FYI, that figure was incorrect. And, here's the correct figure for your actual reporting. Whereas because the Conservatives don't do that, they then get frustrated that, the media is reporting factually incorrect stuff about us. And it's like, well, maybe if you had kind of a better communication and a better relationship with the media, instead of like saying you're going to defund them, for example, then it might go over a little more effectively.
Yeah, it is kind of funny when you're like, you're not covering us well, and I'm taking away all your money.
Yeah, which I will say, like, again, being at the debate, like those outlets who were there, they were just underscoring the importance of giving funding to the public broadcaster, because the public broadcaster looks at the debate. They hosted the debate as well. Like it was at that Radio Canada building in Montreal. And it just, again, underscores the importance of like having one neutral party who can look at everything that's happening and can really just kind of try and solidify the idea of nonpartisanship. And so, unfortunately, not a lot of reporters are obviously in agreement with being defunded and having their jobs taken away. And so that makes it hard too. Like, it's almost a direct conflict for reporter staff to cover that, because like they obviously have very strong public feelings about that, not even just privately.
Well, it is. I want to go back to where you were yesterday. Tell me. So first of all, where are you tonight? Where are you currently?
We had Easter dinner, so I'm at my cousin's house. I'm staying over the night, and then I'm going to one of Mark Carney's things tomorrow as well to cover that as well. So
Okay.
lots of
Hero.
making use of the Easter weekend for family, but also for campaign purposes.
And
Love
so,
it.
are you in Ottawa then? Is that where you are currently?
No, I am in Newmarket.
Okay. So where was the piece yesterday? Where were you yesterday at the press?
He was in Whitby yesterday. He did like a swing through Durham. Yeah.
So now, who brings you to Whitby? I'm just curious in the logistics.
So yesterday, because again, it's Easter weekend, it was my mom. We're getting closer to where I can do it myself. I've been utilizing the GO train a lot. Now that I work for a network, it's easier because they'll just like, oh, we'll pay for like a driver or for an Uber or whatever to take me there. So that makes it a little bit easier.
Awesome.
Even getting to their studio is a little bit far as well, but yeah.
Well, I think I'm just curious about so I think it's very exciting that you potentially have a driver.
Yes.
As someone who's had a driver in their career for a long time, I'm very happy to see you at 16 with a driver and/or a job that allows you to Uber.
Yes, it's very helpful.
I just want to give a shout out to your mom and your dad and your grandparents and all the people who have like been lifting you up and driving you everywhere. Where this little 12-year-old kind of cool concept hobby thing has born into this, I think is very, very awesome. And so I just want to lift your parents up in that conversation. I just think it's the reality is that you have this opportunity and privilege to have this opportunity to be able to be a voice that is not heard, because even as a journalist, as a journalist who just happens to be younger, your perspective and take is going to be different. And the benefit, or one of the benefits you have, is you are smarter than your average duck. Like you can read a room, you can read people. You're just knowledgeable, as we witnessed in the destruction of Brennan and various trivia games. So you've got all these pieces in place, right? So my question for you is that, and we have a couple questions here, so we'll come back to a couple political questions, but my question for you, because I do want to get into talking about the event this coming November and the last year's event.
Okay.
So I want to ask you a question about other young people, but first, before I forget, when you were in Europe, were you in Europe as Wyatt Sharpe, 15-year-old, and participating somewhere, or were you there? And can you still separate the difference between Wyatt and Wyatt the journalist?
I think so. It was actually a school trip that I was in Europe for. I take like a class called travel education in high school, which is like integrated Canadian English and Canadian history. And so I went there, mainly as a 15-year-old, but then I was joking, like as I was there, was when Mark Carney got chosen as the Liberal Party leader. So then like being in, like we were in Paris, and the news forum was like, oh, we've found you a studio that you can use to tape your show in Paris tonight. And so I was like, so it kind of doubles. I'm like, so one of my teachers, like, cause it's in Paris and, crime in Paris is crazy. So my teacher went with me to the studio. And then like, as I'm leaving that studio and we're going to the Eiffel Tower, someone from CNN called and was like, oh, would you do a segment to talk about Mark Carney being elected as Liberal leader? So I was like, of course, I'm not going to say no to CNN. So then I was at the Eiffel Tower, took some photos with friends from school, and then went back to the hotel to do the interview. So awesome. The answer is yes, but you got to balance the two in an effective way, that's for sure.
Okay, so Wyatt, the 16-year-old now, 3 favorite things that are not media, journalism, politics related.
I'm into running quite a bit. Like I'm on the track team and the cross country team. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that's something I love. I mean, I like the idea of it, and like I like the feeling of it afterwards. In the moment, it's not something you love, or like there's always the talk of like when you're doing a 5K run, you got to get or any run really, you got to get past the first 3K, and then it gets better. So yeah, running. I don't know. I mean, this is hard. Politics is a big part of this, but friends and family certainly another one. Like even just being at school, like I'm totally like people often think like, oh, you must talk your friend's ear off about politics or whatever. But I'm like, they're the ones talking to me in most cases. They're just like telling me all of their like. I think they've recognized me as like as the journalist person in like my friend kind of circle, so then they'll just come and like act as if I want to write a story about this, so they're just all going to come to me and just tell me everything that's happening in their life. So that's cool. And then oh god, I mean we have a cottage as well, so I like to I like to kneeboard and go tubing and stuff in the lake and swimming and stuff like that as well.
Awesome. I just want to be reminded that you're, in addition to all of these other things,
that was hard though. I'm not gonna lie, that was hard.
Yeah, I did run on the cross country team. Although I only did it.
It's hard. It's hard.
It is hard, but I only did it because the path that you had to run, I could stop part of the way and smoke a cigarette, and no one could see me. No one could see me. None of the teachers or coaches, and then continue my run. I always came in dead last, because I would stop for a smoke, because it was the only place on the school that you couldn't see.
That's okay. Well, I'm not stopping for cigarettes, and I still come
Good
in
call.
last
I
sometimes.
strongly advise against it. It is not good advice.
Oh God.
Not good advice. Linda says how impressed she is with you, and it so is true. Your knowledge is incredible, and the way you portray yourself is really great. So we're going to close off after these two questions with the more about the event specifically.
Okay.
I think Lana's question here is just a great question about where would you get the most accurate place to find information for real understanding about candidates, to help those folks, because lots of us take for granted that we know who we're going to vote for, but there are still a lot of Canadians who aren't sure, and the risk is that uncertainty leads to not voting at all, right? So what would you suggest here for folks?
I think it's interesting. I think the problem is people oftentimes will turn to the main kind of media sources and they'll just read through the platforms, but the platforms are things that the average person, A, does not want to read, and B, does not really have time for. Like they're 300-page policy documents. Like the average person does not want to read through that. So I would say like there's a couple of good sources. First, I would say, go and definitely browse through the party's websites, but then there's a great website called Pollinize, which is dedicated mainly towards kind of young people, but it is nice because it gives you just kind of the main important bullet points. And then I would also say like take a compass test, like a political compass test. CBC News has like it's called Vote Compass, and they do it for every federal and provincial election. And it asks you, I think, 30 to 40 questions, and they have a spectrum of usually strongly disagree to strongly agree, and they have that for every question. And then they're policy related questions, and then at the end it tells you what percentage agreement you have with each party, and then it'll give you kind of like a grid, and it'll show like left, right, left, or and then left, right, and then it'll tell you kind of where you fall in that spectrum. So I think there's a lot of good resources out there for sure.
I love the compass, the CBC compass piece. I thought that was, and I think it gets better in every election too, right?
It does, yeah. I was actually just looking at it today. Some of my family here for our Easter dinner said, "Oh, I don't know who to vote for." I'm like, "Oh, let me just pull up the compass test for you." So I was doing it with like two or three of my younger but older than me cousins, and so they were like, they were wanting to kind of figure out and ensure that they knew who they were going to vote for.
I was mortified that I had one, what's the party? I can't remember their name. I just blocked it from my brain.
Probably the People's Party.
Yes, the People's Party.
Yeah.
I had one of the issues aligned with them. I was like, how does that happen?
And, it is interesting. I think any of the people I've taken it with, like not many people, and this kind of just, I think can oftentimes show how disillusioned the parties are with people. Like not one person that I've taken the test with or been there as they're taking it have they gotten like more than 75 or 80% agreement with each party? Which even that's like the good case. Like today when I was doing with people, most people was like 50-60% was kind of the tops with respect to how much they agree with each party. And I think that's just because the party doesn't really individualize things. Like they just take like the left-wing viewpoint or the right-wing viewpoint, and then they just kind of take the appropriate policy position for every single issue. And you don't really see a lot of shift. Like if you went up to the average person and said, okay, what is the main difference between Andrew Scheer to Aaron O'Toole to Pierre Poilievre at the Conservative Party, or again from Justin Trudeau to Mark Carney, they're not going to be able to tell you because not much has actually changed. And so in that kind of case, it's interesting just because like you're voting for people who still aren't even going to do things that you want to happen. And so you're being forced to just choose like the least bad person basically. And that's kind of not a great, way to describe it, but it is kind of just a nice way to illustrate it. And so that's unfortunate, but it's a reality of our political system. And at least we have the right to actually go out there and again, to express ourselves in these ways.
Yeah, totally. And so I would certainly recommend, we put the links there for the Compass and for as well the and I'm going to check that out as well, that other one, the Polonize, and we'll check those out as well, just so folks know. You can also, when we think about it, tomorrow is the last day for in fact there's still an hour in Eastern time where you can vote early, but April 28th. And if you visit elections.ca, you can learn where you vote and what you need to be able to vote. So be sure you visit those as well if you're not certain. It's impossible to come and join us and talk about politics and voting without acknowledging that a lot of our relations don't vote. A lot of First Nations folks consciously choose not to vote. And partly because we are, each of us individually, we are members of other nations, right? And so the reality is that you're a member of Tononega Mohawks Bay of Quinte, and which is a sovereign nation.
Yes.
And so there are lots of folks, right, who choose not to vote. First Nations folks who choose not to vote. And in the last week or so, and we listened to Unreserved the other day, and listened to Roseanne Deerchild talk to several sort of folks. One was an urban individual who was really trying to get out the vote, right? Get Indigenous folks out voting. Another was a First Nations woman who wasn't trying to convince others not to vote, but was just identifying why she didn't vote, right? She doesn't take part in Canadian elections because she's not Canadian. She is Anishinaabe, and so that's her take. And I think, Brennan, I imagine you know folks as well who choose not to participate in those government systems.
Yeah, well, I was even like talking to some cousins today at Easter dinner, and just like, and just that indecisiveness and not knowing where to kind of go for information and stuff, right? It keeps people from voting. And so, and yeah, that's why I think it's so cool that you're doing that young voters conference and stuff. Like so many young people in my family and in my life and my friends and stuff like don't I don't want to say don't care, but just like they think I don't know how to explain it, but like yeah, it just seems like really overwhelming, right? Like politics, and it seems like a lot of pressure and weight, and I think it's just easier for people to disassociate from it. So yeah.
Well, I think and I just put this on the table for you, Wyatt, to think about, is that so in that conversation in November, it is an interesting conversation to talk about Indigenous takes on and approaches to elections and politics and voting, right? So as you get ready to plan your future voters summit, there is a large population who might not find that fit for them, right? It doesn't mean they don't want to be engaged politically, but it means that casting a ballot they feel would be disreputable to their own nation, which, as you know, 346 nations in Canada, right, within the country. So I just put it out there in the universe just as a conversation, because they are difficult conversations to have, because folks feel very strongly you should vote, but at the same time, and I'm certainly a voter, but I can appreciate our relations who choose not to. But it's an interesting conversation as to the why not to, because you don't often hear that version, right? You hear, I don't care. You hear, they're all monsters anyways. You hear, I don't know. You hear, it doesn't, my vote doesn't count or matter. You tell that to the ones that there was like a 12 vote difference in the provincial election, right? I think your vote does matter. Certainly to whoever was 12 behind it does. But
Yeah.
tell us a bit more about that Future Voters Summit. Maybe just, if you don't mind, what happened in November.
Yeah, last November was interesting. It was myself and a guy named Sam, who also hosts the show, Sam Miele, on the News Forum. And he was kind of like the natural fit to host it with, because his show is dedicated towards issues impacting young people and Gen Z. And so we had connected at the Canada Strong and Free conference in April of 2024. And then like fairly quickly, we did it like a fairly quick turnaround time and hosted the conference, like from kind of the conception of the idea in April to the actual conference in November, which for people watching, usually those types of things take more like 8 to 9 months to plan. And so we ended up having to do it in a bit of a shorter kind of time span. But yeah, so we did it. We like settled on a venue in like August, like again, also pretty late. We had kind of our speakers locked in September, October, and then we just reached out to our contacts and we managed to get 800 people to attend. And so like, it was an interesting kind of, it gave us a lot of insight into how to, do things and how to not do things. And so like, we got some decent speakers to come. We got like Christy Clark, the former BC premier, who at the time was pretty timely because she was considering running for the leadership of the Federal Party. We had like Kathleen Wynne, the former Ontario premier, and like some journalists, and we had lots of panels. I mean, it was 2 days of basically full programming. And so that was exciting. And then this year, we're getting ready to kind of announce more as to what's coming up for this year. I'll tell you, it's on November 13th at the International Center in Mississauga, so that'll be exciting. And this year, we're going to try and aim. I mean, we've had some talks with different speakers and stuff, but the conference theme this year is going to be on leadership and accountability. So hopefully, we've invited some former heads of state and some cabinet ministers and just people who will be able to come and kind of shed light. And really the idea is just to like give young people kind of a voice. And, we do that through like question and answer sessions. And just a lot of times young people will see what's happening on the news or whatever, and they'll have it turned on or even on their social media feeds, but they still feel as if, it seems kind of distant from them to actually being able to talk with and engage with their elected officials. And so by putting on this conference, it gives young people kind of the microphone directly to them, and they're able to kind of plan and do things themselves, which is something that I don't think we often appreciate. And I mean, we're addressing that issue with young people, but I think that's also an issue that needs to be addressed kind of more broadly speaking in all of society as well. And so if we can figure out how to do that, I think maybe we can actually reduce that voter apathy that we've been seeing, and specifically that we're seeing right now in this election campaign. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of our elected officials want to address it because they're just happy with the status quo. Like, I don't know, the Liberals, for example, they have been, at least federally speaking, I mean, provincially is a different example, but the federal Liberals have been quite happy, like with the voter turnout, or I guess they just don't care about the voter turnout, like because they've been winning elections consecutively. Whereas, like, if you look to the provincial Liberals, they're like, how do we increase voter turnout? Because, like, polls have shown that the people who actually didn't get out and vote in the last couple of provincial elections were the ones who voted Liberal and who voted Progressives in, the preceding elections. And so it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and that's kind of the goal of what we're doing. And so hopefully this year and in the years to follow, we'll be able to bring out more young people and have them engaged and have them participate in democracy, and again, kind of a direct way.
Awesome. I couldn't tell. It looks like Brennan is going to click his mute button. I can't tell.
Sorry. I was just going to say, Alana had a good comment here. Wyatt, I am completely in awe of your knowledge and dedication of what you do. Keep doing what you are doing. I foresee you doing great things in your life.
Thank you. That's great. I appreciate it.
And so one of those great things, I think we asked you this when you're 12. We didn't ask 13 or 14 or 15, so we'll ask now.
Okay.
Do you envision yourself one day running for office of any sort?
I'm going to give the same answer that I think I gave then, and that is no. But who knows? I mean, this will get clipped if I end up deciding to run. But I mean, I think that might be a good thing. I think oftentimes people who have kind of, their dream is to become a politician. They want to become a politician for the wrong reasons. I think the most effective ones are the ones who just kind of get like approached and who end up being able to use their skill set. And like Evan Sullivan's a good example of that. Like he was a news anchor for the longest time, and then he worked on geopolitics and global issues for the Eurasia Group out of New York. And then like he was approached, and they said, we think your skill set would be valuable. And like it was people going to him, not him saying, in an egotistical way, oh, I think I'm the person for the job. So if we can kind of address that, I think that would be good. But yeah, I don't think so, but maybe we'll see.
Well, when you begin your process of planning out more so your November event, if there's anything that we can offer, let us know. You might not know this about us, but this is what we do. It's really actually our job is not this show. This is if it was, I think Corey pointed out that they've got that Midas Touch at 5 million followers, and we have 112. So we're like,
it's good. It's good.
It's different.
It's your dinner, but a little slimmer.
I actually, when I was looking at your notes earlier about the event, about the summit, it reminded me of, this goes back, this is from 2006.
Okay.
This was at the time, were you born in 2006?
Me?
You.
No, I was born 2009.
Oh, that's crazy.
So 3 years before you were born. So 3 years before you were born, we did this project with the Students' Commission of Canada at the time, and along with several other partners, and there was a citizens' assembly across the province of Ontario that where people were randomly selected to come together and create a recommendation around electoral reform. So while that was happening, a group of us were having lunch and thinking, young people need to have a say in this. And I find it funny that, 2006 doesn't seem like a long time ago. But when I realized that it was 3 years before you were born, it makes me feel like it was longer than I thought it was. So we selected, we had applications and had more than 100 young people involved. Every riding in the province was represented at this event. They created their own form of a series of recommendations that were then brought forward to the Citizens Assembly and then brought forward to the government, none of which changed the electoral system anyway. But so as you're planning this event here, if there's anything that our team can offer, let us know, and we'll be very happy to support you in a number of ways. Who hosts this? Like, it's the two of you as the hosts, the physical hosts, but who is the actual host of this event?
Yeah, the Future Voter Summit is a nonprofit. Like, we're doing the main kind of national event, but then our goal is to do kind of more local forums as well, and like days of action at different legislatures and stuff. So the Future Voter Summit is kind of the host itself.
And that's you and your pal.
It is, yeah.
Well, there you go. That in itself, let's be very clear for folks watching at home. So you started your own nonprofit.
Correct, yeah.
That's a big deal, just to be clear. Well, again, I have a feeling that we might be able to be helpful in a couple of ways. So if you want to reach out around it, let me know.
Will do. I appreciate it.
Again, you are beyond impressive.
Thank you.
It is a delight. What did you think of meeting Wyatt tonight?
It was wonderful to meet you, Wyatt. Every time I meet young people like you, it's just, it lifts my heart because you're thinking about so many other things than we ever did at that age. And, I'm 73 now, and I can tell you my experience with the federal politics is that the Liberals have done the most for Indigenous people since 1960 when Diefenbaker gave us the vote. Finally.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was watching a video earlier today. Her name's Jennifer. It was just an online social media video, but she was talking about that. And I didn't actually get to keep watching the video, but she was talking about how she uses her, I don't know if it's an Indigenous status card or something, but she uses that as her identification when she goes to vote, and she had a specific reason for it, but I have to go back and watch to figure out what the reason was. But yeah, she happened to also be voting in the riding in Saskatchewan where John Diefenbaker was from, and so I thought that was kind of an interesting thing.
Yes, very much so. We like to show that status card at the border too.
Yeah, that's great.
So I just want you to know that you are the medicine that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And great to see you both again as well.
Well, yes. And do you have any last words for our friend there, Mr. Gugu?
Yeah, before I wrap up, I forgot to ask, did you get to go to the Louvre in Paris?
You know what? It was actually on our itinerary, and we were so I will just lay this out actually for you. So when you go to Paris, specifically Belgium, the drinking age in Belgium is lower than it is in Canada. And so not me, but some of the other people who were on the trip, not to throw them under the bus, but they had a little bit too much fun. And so that kind of delayed our trip a little bit because there were some consequences that had to be worked out for them. And so they had to take a couple of things out of the itinerary, but that was one of the things that was on it and that got taken out. So it'll call for a trip back, I think.
No, that's brutal.
It's brutal.
That's hilarious that happened.
I am remembering another project, not the one that we did in Peru, but another Peru project that we were evaluating. So we weren't involved in it, but there were two young people who in Peru, the drinking age was younger, and they may have thrown up outside the window of their hotel and landed in a restaurant cafe at the bottom, and their trip got delayed as well.
Yes, yeah.
That's hilarious.
No, the worst part was for these types. The funniest thing for these types of things is that they think they're actually going to go without getting caught, which is beyond me. I mean, especially we were in this really tiny small town called Ypres, Belgium, which is very significant for Canada from the Second Battle of Ypres and all of these things. And we were doing like the Meningate ceremony, and it's the entire town is basically, I don't know if you've been there or not, but it's just this one big square, basically. It's like the size of Nathan Phillips Square, which sounds huge, but like for it being the entire city is not that big. And so all of the restaurants are just like all around the city. So like some of them come out and it was very obvious that that's what had happened. And so then it got dealt with basically in front of every single person. So you asked earlier about a glimpse into the life of a 16-year-old journalist versus a 16-year-old student. I guess that kind of can help paint that picture a little bit too.
That's excellent. Yeah, you'll definitely have to get back and check out the Mona Lisa. I wanted to know what you thought about the Mona Lisa in person because it's so small when you get there.
Yeah.
Big, beautiful painting. It's like this little tiny thing. You have to stand like from it.
We saw like there were a couple of museums we went to. A lot of them were like war-based museums, but I also I didn't realize a lot of the significance behind some of the art there. Even like art in Canada too is great. I mean, I was at the Chateau Laurier in Ottawa, and it was like seeing the portrait of Winston Churchill. I don't know if you saw the story or not, but like it had got stolen from the hotel over the course of COVID. And so they eventually got it back like 8 months later after it had been sent to Italy. And then when it came back, they like now have it in like a big, huge case with like a alarm on it. So if even you touch it, it goes off, and there's warning signs all around it. And it's like, it's crazy that like one piece of art is worth so much, but oftentimes it's like not even just the physical work, I guess, just kind of the meaning and the significance, which, I'm sure in Indigenous culture is even more kind of important than we often recognize. But
yeah, well, just off topic really quick, I know we're wrapping up, but just, there was this really old beaded regalia at the Smithsonian in Washington for a long time. And so a team of Mi'kmaq researchers and stuff got the opportunity to go up there and reclaim that regalia and bring it back to our community. So it's on display, I think, in Nova Scotia now. I think it's on display in Millbrook, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
where are you guys based? I feel you're saying Bay of Quinte, Millbrook. I feel like you're very close to.
So I'm in Millbrook First Nation, which is based in Nova Scotia. So Atlantic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Peter and Kate are way up there.
So we're in Kingston tonight. That's where we are.
Oh, okay.
So are you near the Bay of Quinte?
I'm in like Northumberland, so yeah, kind of.
Oh, near Oshawa.
Pretty close, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
but
I'm not rural, so that seems like that's an overnight trip away for me.
Yeah, no, we have actually a bunch of just to say this, it's cool to me too, just to see like different cultures and stuff interacting. But we live on like an apple farm, and there's like migrant workers who are coming and who are working and stuff. And so like our house is basically our house is here, and then all around us is apple farms, and there's like a bunkhouse for all of the like migrant workers and stuff. And so it's very cool to just kind of see them and learning Spanish, talking to all of them. I mean, I don't do it as much as I would perhaps like to, but it's just cool to. And like even when I was in Europe, just hearing kind of the language and everybody like talking. And the most humbling thing I will say, because like my French is decent but not that great, so being in French and in Paris, talking to like the servers in French, trying to be respectful, and then them talking back to me in English was certainly a very humbling experience. But yeah.
Brennan's and my first international adventure was in France and going to Paris together.
Yeah.
How's your French? Did you talk to them in French? You get any English
Un
back?
petit peu.
Yeah.
My French is horrible. I failed all my French classes in school. I was up there. I was a lost cause up there.
All right. Before we wrap up, I gotta ask you just to put it in your ear that should you on the Newsforum network, I just gotta say, I did see that there is Christine Van Jen, is that her name? She has a show.
Yeah.
If you happen to see her, because
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, she works for the Canadian Constitution Foundation.
Yes, I think so.
That's my understanding. They're currently involved in a really just concerning lawsuit with UBC. If you don't know anything about it, take a peek at it.
Yes.
It is unsettling, actually, because it's concerning because of the ripple effects it could have, which is why they're doing it. And for folks at home, that organization is representing 3 PhDs and I think a grad student at UBC, and they are suggesting that the land acknowledgements that are done at UBC are against the law.
Okay. I did not know that.
And it is anchored in my assessment from reading the claims. It is anchored in a rhetoric that is very damaging and not an accurate understanding of what land acknowledgements are and can be. Sorry, we just went dark. The screen went to dark.
Okay. That's I'll just say this quickly. Yeah. I'll just say this quickly about Christine. She is very nice, and I've met her a couple of times. And I always think with people, just a general principle, like with whom you disagree, like just have a conversation and kind of see where they're coming from as a starting point, because oftentimes like when you talk to people and like on either side, what you think they might be saying is different, or what they are saying is different. So for sure, I mean, I'm interested actually now that you said that to give her a call and hear what she's actually saying on that front, because I think like even just and I think it's interesting, like just to give further context, like I mentioned earlier, I hosted a Chamber of Commerce event, and I was reading the land acknowledgement at the Chamber of Commerce event, and then one of the people who attended just thought it was so wrong that I was reading this land acknowledgement, and it's kind of the least we could do. And he got up and left because I was reading the land acknowledgement. And so I don't know if it, again, is coming from a place of misinformation where maybe people just are misinformed as to why or like what the land acknowledgements actually are. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, even I'll talk with Christine and then see kind of what her messaging is, and then maybe even put her in contact with you and have a conversation. And because I think conversations are an undervalued principle.
And I'd be happy to. Their argument is that it's political in nature, and that UBC as a registered A, B, or C can't be doing. It needs to be apolitical, et cetera, et cetera. And it's and it's the concerning piece is that the concern that I think a number of folks I've had conversations with this week, as this has evolved and become more concerning, is that the ripple effects of where else this I'm not convinced land acknowledgements are going to save us as Indigenous folks. They are not the answer, but they're a step forward versus a step back, right? And the idea that they're political and so don't belong in these spaces is the concerning piece, because It is the stepping backwards, which is what we're not needing in this world right now.
And I don't want to feel like I'm interviewing you necessarily, but just like this was actually a topic at a conference and unrelated to what Christine was saying. But is there any like, I don't want to say situation, but like any time where you think maybe there, and again, I'm not suggesting this is what Christine was doing, but like where like elected officials will leverage it to kind of portray as if they care about Indigenous peoples, whereas
100%. Like elected officials, teachers, stores, businesses, like without a doubt. But what it does, certainly from our work, in the dark, from our work, I just saw us again. I'm like, oh my God, like robbers.
Where's the ring light?
What it does for us is, I don't have any light. Oh wait, here's a light.
Because like for like this Chamber of Commerce event, like I was reading the land acknowledgement, and you know I tried to put some time in trying to like make sure that I was able to understand like how to pronounce some of the words and stuff that was a part of it, and take the time to actually be educated on what was being said. But like I've been at places before when it's being read and it's not being pronounced correctly, and like it's very clearly just like a stunt or an image that's trying to make the company or the organization look good. So yeah, I don't know. I'll look into what Christine was saying for sure. But like if it was from that perspective, that might make a little bit more sense. Like if they were trying to prevent that, but I don't know.
It's the language, particularly around unceded territory. People get really anxious about that. Non-Indigenous people get anxious by that language. It is so for land acknowledgements in general, it is when done well, when done with good intention, when your heart and your spirit and your mind have sort of worked together to get there. And you did exactly, and I'm not just saying this to be polite to you, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to see the pronunciation, you need to practice, you need to understand what you're saying out loud, right? And because it has become in lots of spaces very pat, right? Like, okay, we get this check mark. So it's what's interesting with UBCs is that it's actually very, very intentional and clear, which I actually, and so we've worked with a number of spaces that have created not just land acknowledgements, but solidarity statements, right? And that takes it to that next level. You might not read that solidarity statement at the opening of every event or the everything, but because it's generally longer and more thorough. But the land acknowledgement just acknowledges, much like, and they stem from, if I visit Brennan in Millbrook, right? He's in Millbrook First Nation, but I'm in Anishinaabe. I'll acknowledge the land I'm on, right? When we're working in Millbrook, I'll acknowledge that we're in Mi'kmaq territory and be grateful that the Mi'kmaq people have invited us there, that the Mi'kmaq people have cared for this land and these waters. Like that's the land acknowledgement, right? That I would offer.
Yeah.
So when we've seen it become an act of reconciliation-ish, it's based on that premise of acknowledging the land that it was, right? So the city of Kingston was the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, now made up of Métis and Inuit and other Indigenous folks, right, from across the country, and acknowledge that this land was. So like down the road from here, not even far, where the water fits, all of our peoples used to come there, right, to come and trade and come and share and come and feast. And so that's what those land acknowledgements were for, was to acknowledge those original peoples, because it helps shift the narrative of the country, of Canada, right?
Yeah,
and that's
no, for sure. I will. I was just gonna say I will definitely, because now I'm even just interested in kind of the idea of what she is saying and stuff. So I'm gonna ask her about it. And like she's not even like I don't even want to say she's very political necessarily. Like she seems to be kind of like, I've seen her not even just on the news forum, like she's a CBC commentator and she'll give her opinions on CBC and stuff with respect to legal cases as well. So I'd like to think hopefully it's coming from a position of not like, you know, obliviousness to what's happening, but so yeah, I'll chat with her and then let you know.
In the universe, just because it was just funny because when I went to check them out today, I was like, hey, I know who that is, because literally it's been on lots of people's desks this week, that topic.
Well, I just looked it up and it says April 7th, so yeah, it seems pretty recent.
Yeah, so either way, the Linda does have a suggestion that you should be the prime minister or a political news anchor. I have no doubt that will occur. let us know if there's anything we can do to offer support to your event this fall.
Thank you.
Again, it is. I think in December we did a gathering for Saskatchewan First Nation, and I think that was around the 200th event that we had done for young people. So, and ranging in size from 20 to 800. So,
well, we'd love your help, and we're even what we're doing is anyone can go online and buy tickets, and they have to pay $25, which is still, like, for a ticket price, pretty accessible. But even for some, segments of the population who it's not as accessible for, we're making it. If you register as a group to bring a group of people, because all we care about is engagement. Like Sam, Nora, we're not making money from doing this. If you bring a group of people, we'll make admission free, and just so that people can be engaged. There's places on site to buy lunch. There's places on, so it's all kind of in one spot. So yeah, no, and we'd love to even just have, like, we don't just want to have, like, Indigenous voices there, but we want to have Indigenous voices as part of the conversation as well. And so, there's, I don't even remember, it's terrible, I don't remember her name, but there's an Indigenous, I think, soccer Olympian. I don't know if you know who it is or not. Hold on, let me look. I think she might.
I think I know what you're thinking of. I don't know the name though.
Soccer.
Hold on, let me just look, because now I'm just like,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but
does she play in, like, Europe?
I don't know.
Does the name Monique Hornmiller sound familiar?
No. But anyway, the point is not the name of the person, but the point was just, like, we're trying to get people to come, and not even just political people, but we want people to come to be kind of vehicles for political engagement. And so we understand that can't just be kind of the typical politician coming to give their teleprompted political speech. And so, yeah, hoping to have Indigenous voices, but not just, like, all different types of people to come and to have their voices, not just at the event, but included in kind of the event as well.
Awesome. And the date is November?
November 13th.
Excellent.
Yeah,
well,
we can connect about it as well, that's for sure. I'll set up a call even with myself and you guys and Sam, and just kind of, I think that would be cool. I think he would be very open to it as well, for sure. So
sounds good. This has been a delightful way to wrap up an Easter Sunday.
Yes.
And it is, I'm so glad that you got to visit with Grandma Kate Wyatt. You are one of many of the hundreds and hundreds of young people all across the country who have gotten this opportunity. And she has been with us traveled with us all over the country. She even survived when she was with Brennan. Didn't she get shot at when she was with you, Brennan?
Oh, when we were in Cup and Cash?
Yes.
I forgot about that. That's very funny. He shot our window out.
That's how far she'll go for you.
Yeah, they shot at your seat. You're in the passenger seat. We shot at you, Kate. That's crazy.
Yeah. So until I will we'll say goodbye to Wyatt now. We'll wrap up just in a second because I think I've got an idea to share with Brennan and everyone. But Wyatt, this has literally been a delight. I am so grateful.
Thank you, you guys too.
We will, and who knows, maybe we'll see each other before next year. But if not, you'll be 17, you'll have your license, you'll be driving yourself.
Yeah.
But use the driver as much as you can. I say that from experience. If you have access to a car and driver, get the car and driver.
Save on some gas money in this economy would be a nice thing.
It's just cool.
Just feel good.
Cool.
Just feel good.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Have a great night and have a good day off tomorrow. I hope it's less. Well, it won't be. It's the middle of election campaign. You'll be busy.
Yeah, we're going to Mark Carney's thing tomorrow, so we'll have some fun.
Good luck.
Take care, Wyatt.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for the time.
Well, wasn't that delightful?
Yeah, that was the best.
That was.
He's a young man. Good to see you, Kate and Peter. Oh, thank you.
Good to see you too, Brennan.
Oh no, that was Anastasia.
Yeah, and I was reading that. Yeah, it was super good to see you too, Kate. Though I'm so glad you snuck Kate on here today, Peter. Thank you. It was the best.
So Easter surprise.
Yeah.
Did you get nut-free chocolate today?
Yeah. I got some Peeps and
some Peeps.
Yeah. What else did I get? Little Yeah, cotton candy and chocolate eggs.
Well,
I ain't getting no bunny this year though.
no bunny.
Yeah, my mom said no chocolate bunny for you this year.
Oh,
Okay.
should I defriend her on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Block her and unblock her right now.
This is what I got today. This is I asked if I could share this. This is what I got today. This is Sean.
Oh, I seen that. I just seen that before.
This
awesome.
was the absolute highlight of my day. I had a great day today, and Graham stopped by, and Corey and Taya stopped by, and you guys. But this, like, when I saw this today, my heart literally exploded into a billion pieces. This is my grandson, and oh my God!
You got a Kit Kat bunny?
Yeah, you did get a Kit Kat. Look at you, filled with lies.
I don't know where it is.
Mhm.
I guess I gotta find it. It must be hiding behind the couch. Yeah, that's awesome. I love seeing Everett's grades. Love seeing him grow his hair. I love that. It's awesome.
Yeah, so that was awesome. That was a highlight of my day. Just when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, my heart is perfect." So
it makes me so happy.
Pardon me?
It makes me so happy that like Shawnee and JJ like encourage him so much in that and support him too.
Yeah,
like, it's so cool.
And Kate was just saying he's losing his baby look.
Oh, he's growing up fast, man.
Yeah, he is
crazy. Yeah,
you are right, Mello. He is. He's a beautiful boy.
Beautiful soul too. He's the nicest, sweetest little boy.
Oh, so nice and sweet. Yes, like So here's what I was thinking. We're trying to figure out last week after we hung up. We Brandon and I chatted a bit more, and so.
Do you want to keep talking or wrap up the show?
No, I think I want to share it with folks. Like this is the idea I've got. You had a great suggestion last week, which was because I was talking about getting the guests, right? It's a hard task. It's a hard even this like I reached out to Wyatt earlier in the week and didn't even send the thing until today, right? Like, and that's because A, I'm lazy, B, I'm lazy, C, I'm forgetful, D, I'm lazy. Like all those things. It's on my mind, but it doesn't get out of my mind into my little cans onto the keyboard, right? So I can own that. I can wear that. That is on me. But that's one of the challenges with the show is having to try to get guests every week. So you had suggested, what if we did every other week we had a guest? So then not have to do it. But then I thought, well, what if we actually did the show every other week? Mm-hmm. And one time a month is just us hanging out. One time a month is with a guest. What are your thoughts of that?
I'd be fine with that. I don't think it would take away from the show at all. I mean, it would take away from our weekly guests. Sorry, guys, but I think it would be good. And then we already had this conversation, but like it's just being able to get guests is a big thing there, and I think it would just even like stress wise and going into shows and stuff, I think would help a lot.
Yeah. So if we did it every 2 weeks instead of every week, right? And we give that a little test here through the summer and see how it works.
Yeah.
Does that sound good? I don't know if folks are at home, but you're still watching. I think that's a good idea. But I think that's what we're going to do. And Lana gives a thumbs up. And,
that's good.
Yeah, that is good. So that's always a good vote from Lana. So, yeah. So whether we are... So we'll... Brendan and I will connect this week sometime. I think we have a meeting this week to talk about our special
Wednesday, I think.
That's not public yet, but it will be public.
Yeah.
In the coming.
Are we meeting on Wednesday?
I think we're meeting someday. I don't know what day it is.
Is it on here?
Oh yeah, right there. Earlier today is here. Yeah, we are. We're meeting on Wednesday. So why don't we try to aim? Today is Easter.
Easter
Sunday. So why don't we come back on May 4th? Sunday, May 4th.
Sounds good.
Does that make sense? Linda suggested Buffy St. Marie for a guest. Don't think she's taking a lot of media these days.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right. And we'll know if there's a guest or not in the coming week.
We could ask her a ton of fun questions.
One of Susan Gluckart here. She's
Susan Gluckart is here on the 2nd of May.
Tell her stay a couple days. You could
Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
So she's got her next. I think she's got concerts every night.
Does she?
we pre-record one with her.
We could try. We could also just try to get her for another Sunday.
I was going to say it'd be better if we could just get her back for an actual Sunday.
Yeah, I'll reach out to her and see if she'll join us again.
Sweet.
Yeah, I will do that. Again, it'll be like in a week or so. I remember and something, but with someone like Susan, I'm realizing one of the things that we were doing, one of the challenges is that I'd be like, hey, are you available on this day? When we really need to not do that. We just need to say we do it on Sundays. Here's a list of available dates. Do any of those work for you?
Yeah, what works for you?
Well, but either way, Brandon Gugu, I'm so glad you joined us even when you're sick. Very appreciative. Again, I absolutely love the wallpaper behind you.
The other corner of the room, there's little glow-in-the-dark star stickers too. Moons and stuff, stars.
There you go. To friends at home, thank you so much for joining us. Grandma Kate, I'm so glad. I love it when Grandma Kate just stops by. It is such a lovely treat. And then she had a little bit of dinner, and I like being able to feed Grandma Kate. And you didn't even get snarky that there was no 18% cream in the house. That's she was behaving like a very polite guest.
She came prepared.
Oh, goodness. Well, my friends and my loves, this has been a wonderful way to spend a Sunday night, especially when I don't have to go to work on Monday morning. And I don't know. I think we're closed. We're closed tomorrow, I guess. So I'm going to stay up and try to watch a movie and not fall asleep. And although the odds are against me. Until we see each other again, I just remind folks at home how much you matter to us and how grateful we are that you're kicking around and coming to hang out on Sundays. Make sure you click share on this and share it on your Facebook, share it on YouTube, like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't yet. We never really did hit that 1,000 mark.
You should have told Wyatt. He probably got lots of followers.
Oh, he does have lots of followers.
He's on cable TV.
Yeah.
Tell everybody to follow us, Wyatt.
Yeah, be nice to us. Be nice to these old guys. That's so funny that I showed a project that he wasn't even born for 3 years later.
That's so wild.
And I was old when that project happened. Literally. I was like the old guy at the event. Oh my God. All right. Brandon Gugu, you are the absolute best. And I am so grateful for you. And you matter so much to me. And Grandma Kate, obviously the same goes in every situation.
Yeah.
And you guys have a great night and don't overdose on chocolate.
Love you guys.
Motos.
Bon appetit.
Bon appetit.